It's Tuesday, the 5th of December 2023. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 big stories to race through in 5 minutes. Let's get going. Story number 1. Yesterday was a big day, wasn't it? ANZ argued the competition watchdog is divorced from reality when it comes to the majors bid for Suncorp Bank, and shareholders in Origin Energy voted down a near $20 billion bid from Brookfield and EIG. It was a big day.
Sure was. ANZ's lawyers said the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission's justification for blocking its near $5 billion acquisition of Suncorp's banking arm was highly speculative, and told a tribunal hearing that the ACCC displayed diffident non-satisfaction in rejecting the takeover. Ruth Higgins SC said the decision was an error because mortgage brokers, aggregators, apps and regulatory changes had all lifted price transparency and boosted competition in banking. Now, back in June, the ACCC said ANZ would further entrench an oligopoly and hurt competition in the home loan, agribusiness and SME lending markets, particularly in Queensland, if it acquired the banking operations of Suncorp. Dr. Higgins said while the ACCC had identified some legitimate ways in which competition would be hurt, they were not substantial issues and therefore could not be used as a reason to block the transaction. We're going to have hearings over the next 2 weeks and a decision will be delivered by 20 February, Michael.
And Sean, the Origin Energy vote went down as expected.
Sure did. 66.97% of shareholders voted in favour of the deal to sell Origin to the consortium of North American companies, 31.07% against. A 75% was the pass mark. If you abstract Australian Super's 17.5%, then 81% of the remaining votes were for the deal. Shows you the power of big super when one shareholder can determine the outcome of a $20 billion deal. Investors broke out into applause when the chair said the deal had been voted down. Origin Energy share price fell to $7.86 ahead of a trading halt, which was the head of that shareholder vote. The energy giant's share price is now about 15% below the offer price. Oz Super said with the shareholder vote finalised, it's looking forward to working with Origin's board and executive team as they execute their strategy and ambition to lead Australia's energy transition.
Story number 2, Sean, is all about crypto. Bitcoin is back, hitting $40,000 for the first time in 18 months.
I know you love this, Michael. The largest digital asset has extended this year's rebound on expectations of interest rate reductions and greater demand from exchange-traded funds. According to Bloomberg, it's up 142% this year. Bitcoin was last at $40,000 a unit before the Terra USD stablecoin collapse that contributed to the tumbling in value of digital assets and a chain of collapses in the crypto sector. Investors are increasingly convinced the Fed is done with hiking rates. The digital asset industry is also awaiting the outcome of applications from organisations such as BlackRock to launch the first US spot Bitcoin ETF. Now, Securities and Exchange Commission approval is expected early next year. Bitcoin, as well as smaller tokens like Ether and BNB, remain well below their records. In fact, Bitcoin peaked at almost $69,000 back 2 years ago.
Story number 3, Sean. The federal government has drafted new laws to enable the preventative detention of non-citizens convicted of serious crimes. The laws reflect those that already apply to convicted terrorists.
The 70 pages of legislation is in response to the November High Court decision which said that indefinite detention is illegal. It resulted in the release of 148 people who were denied citizenship on character grounds. Under the proposed laws, any of the ex-detainees who have been convicted in a foreign or domestic court of a serious violent or sexual offence, which carries a penalty of either life in jail or at least 7 years, is eligible to be put back into detention. Now, the laws are very similar to what's known as the high-risk terrorist offenders regime introduced by the Coalition when they were in government. Makes it difficult for the Coalition to oppose these laws that the government's trying to introduce, Michael.
Yeah, story number 4, Sean. Agriculture Minister Murray Watt has called for a freeze on the price of leg ham, warning supermarkets against profiting unfairly from consumers ahead of Christmas.
The big issues, I quote Mr. Watt, "The traditional ham is a staple of any Christmas lunch in Australia, and we know families are doing it tough at the moment, and the cost of a lot of things is going up. It's time for supermarkets to do their part and say one thing we won't put up is the price of a Christmas ham." Go Muzzer.
Oh, well said. All right, last one. Story number 5. I have no idea why this is in a business news podcast, Sean, but let's go for it. Penguins are champion power nappers. Over the course of a single day, they fall asleep thousands of times, each about a few seconds long, according to a new study.
The study by the Neuroscience Research Centre of Lyon in France and a researcher at the Korea Polar Research Institute appeared in Nature, was reported in the New York Times, and it's a critical edition of the study of sleep. But how animals sleep varies a lot. Brown bats remain asleep for 20 hours a day, for example. Giraffes get by with less than 2 hours. Human brains shut down entirely when we sleep, while seals can shut down on a single side while the other is still awake. They can continue swimming as they doze, for example. Back to the penguins. While in the ocean, the birds barely slept, spending just 3% of their time resting on the surface of the sea. The study found when the penguins returned to their nest, their brain waves slowed to a pattern that is typical for sleeping birds, but only for a few seconds. They woke up again, only to fall back asleep. The birds sped through this cycle 600 times in an hour.
Well, there we go. The top 5 business-ish stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It is Tuesday, the 5th of December, 2023. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed Business News wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.